This is Jacques Delorme from Visports. Today's topic is food pyramids. A food guide pyramid is a pyramid-shaped guide of healthy foods divided into sections to show the recommended intake for each food group. There are currently 25 countries and organizations around the world that have one. We will discuss two of them, the US Department of Agriculture version as well as the version from Health Canada. Both guides are there to help with meal planning within their countries. The recommendations in each are fairly close to each other, but the way that they present the information is quite different. The older 2005 version for the US pyramid is a pyramid shape with the largest group at the bottom, which is the carbohydrates, the bread, cereal, and pasta, and the smallest group at the top, which are the fats and oils. The size of the group indicates how much you should eat of each by a rough comparison. So the largest group on the bottom you would eat the most of. The small group on top you eat the least. The diagram is labeled with the number of servings of each as a range. For example, there are 6 to 11 servings of breads for that group. That's a pretty big range and obviously doesn't fit one individual group. The range is caused by the numbers having to cover all age groups in one diagram. So it doesn't actually break it up. You have to get that from a separate document. The newer version, a 2011 version of the US food pyramid, changed quite a bit because they found the 2005 version was just too abstract and people were having trouble reading it. It is still a pyramid shape, but there are vertical lines to break it up into each group. It lists the servings of each group based on an 1800 calorie diet, which again only fits only a small select group within the demographics that we have in our society. You can't compare a 4-year-old child to a full-grown male adult. The Canadian version of the food guide is quite a bit different. It actually isn't a pyramid, though they call it that. The table is drawn as a horizontal table with each area horizontally for each food group with an example of the quantity of food to eat as one serving for a number of foods within each. For example, in the vegetables group, it mentions there's half a cup of vegetables is one serving for that section. The first part of the table on the left shows a number of servings recommended in the different age groups, which is where it's quite a bit different. It breaks it up into children's age 2-3, ages 4 through 8, ages 9 through 12, etc. Deals with the teenage years, and then breaks the adults into 2 more groups yet. So there are actually 6 different age groups that it deals with. And when you go through each one, it gives you the number of servings in that age group. For example, children's age 4 to 8, they would need 5 servings of vegetables and fruit, 4 servings of grain products, 2 servings of milk, and 1 serving of meat. So the other 2 guides that I've seen, the Canadian one is more comprehensive. It is easier to understand versus the 2 US versions. Even though I am from Canada, it's still the one I do prefer regardless, not being biased. The Health Canada site, if you go there, it does make some other recommendations as well. They recommend that you don't restrict nutritious foods just because of fat content for kids. Offer a variety of foods from the 4 food groups. And when you do that, you'll include choices that may have slightly higher fat, like 2% milk versus skim milk, or peanut butter or avocados, but it's not going to hurt a child unless you get into really bad fats. Their second recommendation is to satisfy their thirst with water. Try to avoid a lot of the juices, a lot of the Gatorade, Powerade that some adults have been tending to give their kids. Encourage them to drink a lot of water to quench their thirst and replenish body fluids. They recommend that children and adults should choose vegetables and fruit a lot more than they choose the actual juice. It gives you a lot more fiber, a lot more nutrients in it. Children also need a total of about 2 cups of milk every day to help meet the requirements for vitamin D. The third recommendation is to respect your children's ability to determine how much food to eat. While parents and caregivers determine the selection of foods that the kids eat, younger kids can determine how much food they actually need. Throughout a given day, children are able to adjust their intake based on their appetite. This explains why some kids eat more at one meal while very little at others, and some weeks they'll eat very little, other weeks they eat a lot when they're in a growth spurt. The fourth recommendation is to be a good role model. As an adult, we understand food guide a lot better than kids do. So as a result, we should be eating healthy as well. You should start by having meals together as a family as much as possible. Turn off the TV, sit at the table, and set a good example. If your child sees you eating vegetables, they will tend to do the same. So setting an example for them with what we eat becomes fairly critical. Next point is to really be patient. If an unfamiliar food is rejected the first time they try it, like for example, I hated bananas as a kid. I eat them now, they're a great source of potassium, but I hated them as a kid. If my parents had given up on me, I would never eat bananas in my entire life. They didn't. They kept trying to have me eat it. It's much the same with your own kids. The more often the child's exposed to new foods, the more likely they're going to accept it. Next point they recommend is to organize fun physical activities. Kids need to be active. Young kids rely on their parents to provide opportunities for that activity. Some ideas are like bicycle riding, walking, dancing, games of tag, going out, go for a toboggan ride in the wintertime, build a snowman. Getting kids involved with physical activity, which the recommendation in both countries is at least 60 minutes of exercise. So with that, we need to get them involved and get them away from the TV, away from the computer, get them away from the activities that give them a very sedentary type of lifestyle. That covers the food pyramids from the two countries. It's fairly basic. It's pretty straightforward. If you're looking for websites for the two of them, check the notes portion underneath this video here on YouTube or whatever site you happen to be seeing it on, and there will be two links, one for each country, to give you an actual location to go find more information about the food guides and actually be able to pick up a copy of it. Hope this is informative for you. If you're looking for more information on nutrition, training, and motivation for kids, please visit our website at www.bysportsnutrition.ca.